Welcome back to the conversation. I'm Nubareto. Conversation talk about different things going on in the community. I want to support different whether it's a local politician who's running for an office, but also we got to support black businesses. We always talk about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter when it comes to education, when it comes to businesses, in all aspects. So I wanted to bring out a real good friend of mine. She does yoga class. I'm gonna kind of let her introduce herself. But her name is Sharlene Paul, but her business is called Mocha Wellness, which I think is real smooth. Sharlene, thanks for coming on the podcast. And then just kind of talk about the things that you're doing right now.
Yeah, so as you said, my name is Sharlene Paul, and I am a local yoga instructor here in Brockton, Massachusetts. I just recently got certified in becoming a yoga instructor here in Brockton and started teaching classes in January at a local dance studio, B City Reps, another local gem here who teaches dance classes to young kids. So
I wonder who owns B City Reps. I don't know her.
Yeah, you would probably know her, Cassandra. Shout out to you. And it just really, I got into yoga 2014, I would say officially, is when I first started doing some yoga classes, and I really didn't take it very seriously. It just was like another class that was offered at my gym. But then in 2018, I actually got a couple more classes and took it more seriously. And then I just started realizing, looking around the room, there isn't any black people. There isn't really any people of color. And I just found that to be a problem because for me, I find it very therapeutic and very healing. And it's done wonders for myself and for other people that I've met. Then I'm just wondering how come more black people aren't exposed to it. And so it just came and dawned on me, in order to get more people of color involved, they need to see more people of color doing yoga. They need to see more instructors that look like them. They need to see more spaces that are catered to them. So that's when I decided to become certified and enrolled into a yoga teacher training program that lasted a year and officially graduated January.
Talk about how intense that program is, because I think a lot of times when people see anything, they just think it's an easy process. But I mean, to be good at anything, there needs to be some time dedicated to that. So just talk about that process of getting in and getting officially certified for people who are interested in doing that.
Yeah, so yoga teacher training programs are typically not cheap. It's roughly about $3,000 on the low end, and that's about what I paid. And there's different levels of intensity. There's a summer intensive where you're doing it in 3 weeks, which I don't recommend because it's a lot of information being thrown at you in a very short period of time. There's the average pace, which is 7 months to about 9 months. And then there was one that I did, which is a year long. And by it being a year long, it was stretched out over 1 weekend or 2 weekends every month, but we would spend pretty much the entire day together. So it would be I'd leave my house at 10 a.m. or so, and I wouldn't get back till 6, 7 p.m. And you're in that class the whole time. You're not on your phone, you're not on a computer. We're just immersing ourselves in yoga philosophy, postures, anatomy, different things that happen when you're doing yoga and the purpose and all these things, trying to get yourself immersed in it. And then once you're out there on the field, then the real learning actually starts, trying to teach people who don't know anything about yoga how to do this and trying to break it down in layman's terms. And it's different from fitness. I think people look at it as just stretching or it's fitness, but it's really more so about tapping into your internal self, because we often are just on autopilot when we're going through our days and our lives, and we're not checking in with our breath, we're not checking in with our thoughts, we're not checking in with what we believe is true about ourselves. And so it's a whole philosophy where it's 8 limbs, and the yoga postures that people know of yoga is just one piece of yoga itself. There's many different parts of lifestyle, necessarily how you live, how you treat animals, how you treat other people, how you give back to your community. So how you conduct yourself it's all wrapped into that.
So so when people think of yoga, they just don't think about the physical part of it. It's actually a lifestyle.
Yeah.
That people have that. Well, I didn't know that. That's very fascinating. In terms of the lifestyle part. Talk more about that. Is it a particular diet that people got to do, or what type of mindset that you need to have for that whole yoga, whole philosophy to really come full throttle?
So in the 8 limbs, they go over a lot of different things like dhyana, and it's all in Sanskrit. It's a foreign language to most people. It's this practice evolved way back 5,000 years ago. So there's books and things that are catered to it. The whole practice of the yoga postures, which is called asanas, is to get you comfortably seated in to prepare for meditation. And by going through meditation, they say that that's the ultimate way of becoming tapped into yourself and tapped into your purpose. Because a lot of people have problems just sitting still and just
I'm one of them.
breathing, or that's like harder for most people than it is to just do yoga. And people don't realize, like, the reason why it's so hard is because we're so wrapped up in our ego, we're so wrapped up in our thoughts, we're so wrapped up in the physical realm of this world, versus understanding like there's a higher purpose, there's a higher place, there's a higher meaning for everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we are intentional about, our passions, what motivates us. All those things we sometimes lose sight of because we're not tapped into our internal self. And so meditation is a way for us to step away from the busyness of the world and start to listen to yourself and start to listen to your emotions and what drives you and what fuels you and how you actually feel, and all those kind of things. So, but like ahimsa is like non-violence. That's one of the other limbs. Non-violence can be translated to like non-violence towards animals. So a lot of people practice to not eat meat. There are a lot of vegetarians, a lot of vegans. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be that way, but that's how they interpret it, they translate it. But ahimsa is non-violence, period. So even your thoughts or your emotions towards other people, how you talk to people, you have to be non-violent in the way you are. There's one about being clean and cleanliness, so not littering and not just being dirty or deceitful. Things like that all is wrapped up in the 8 limbs. But also, not to get too deep into the origins of yoga from an Indian sense, from India, because it also exists in Africa, and that's what a lot of people are now waking up to understand, is that in Egypt, all the hieroglyphics that you'll see in the temples and the pyramids and things like that is yoga postures. And now we've discovered Kemetic yoga. So any kind of old way of being where they were respectful and they prized their elders, and the way that they treated each other, their diet, what they put into their bodies, mind, body, and soul, was all connected. And bringing the breath in is also tapping into our parasympathetic nervous system. We have a parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system.
How do you spell that?
Parasympathetic is para. no, so, but
I don't say words I can't spell.
But like, to break it down, like, we have our fight or flight, and that's where that originates, is like our basic sense of survival is connected quite literally to our breath. And when the more you tap into it, the more you can control it. So I find myself not getting as angry about certain things. I find myself, when I am stressed out, then I know I need to like tap in and I need to like take a couple breaths. And that literally sends a signal to your brain to rest, digest, to relax, to know that you're safe, and those kinds of things. Once you get that kind of power over your own body, your own thoughts, and your emotions, it's like you're unstoppable. And it becomes this craze that people see now, where people are obsessed with like yoga. There's a reason. It's like scientific, it's religious, it's not religious, but spiritual. Right. It's everything.
I think that's really important, because particularly, I think when it comes to the Black community, I think we really disregard our mental health. It's almost like looked like this as a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
So just talk about that importance of it's particularly in the Black community, how how it's important to get involved in. It may not necessarily be yoga, but just mental health and really focusing on that.
Yeah, I think to me it's quite telling when I have someone come to class and they're explaining how they can't really get into the moves and they're really sore and tense. Your body stores tension in the body, and one thing that they'll say is, I find it hard to breathe. And I find that very kind of telling, given the times that we're in with George Floyd and everything. Like, I can't breathe, and that's been the message. We quite literally don't make time to just be intentional with our breathing, with our thoughts, being honest about how we feel, because we're ashamed and we've been conditioned to not talk about things and not be emotional. Literally, there's classes that I've taught, and someone told me that when she was in a posture, she was just holding the posture. It was like child's pose, where you're just like on your knees and your head's down. And she cried. And she didn't understand why she was crying. And it's because I had to let her know, like, we store so much on our shoulders, in our backs, in our all parts of our bodies. The minute you can actually sit and release that stuff, it can be powerful. It can be very emotional for some folks. So for some people, they might just see the outward expression, which might be yoga, but for others, this is the first time they actually spent an hour to themselves to just focus on their body, to just focus on breathing, to just focus on being alive. And that is something that is priceless, because not everybody can afford to just go to therapy. Not everybody not everybody has those resources to talk to other people, or to even afford to go to a trainer or a gym or anything like that. So if you can just take a yoga class for like $10, and that's your form of your therapy or your way of releasing some of the tension inside of your body, then that's priceless.
So just want to wrap it up. How can people sign up for your class? Do you have a website? What days, what times? Just give us the pitch.
So right now I teach classes at B Study Reps, which is here in Brockton, 60 South Skinner Street in Brockton. And I teach classes on Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. So that's on my website. You can sign up for classes at https://www.mochawellnesscenter.com. Just go to the book online option. So that's on Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. And then I also just started doing outdoor yoga classes, which just started last Sunday. And that's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at DW Field Park. And that class is actually free. I just asked for donations. In same website, www.mochawellnesscenter.com, book online. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Mocha Wellness for both of those.
So definitely come out and support. As I said it before, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, just make sure it's mattering in all aspects, in education, business, mental wellness, etc. So, Sharlene, I want to thank you for coming on. Really proud of you. I can just tell the passion what you're talking about. I've learned a lot just in 10 minutes and that we talked, because that was in terms of this quarantine life. I've noticed myself just moving around and not being able to stay still. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a focus on being able to treat yourself mentally and kind of see your inner self. So appreciate you. Definitely come out and support. So you listen to the conversation. Be sure to check us out for different episodes. Godspeed, guys, whatever that means.